Welcome to Collecting Issues, where this episode we'll be taking a look at Bone, Volume 1, out from Boneville, collecting issues 1 to 6 of the 1991 comic by Jeff Smith.
So the comic book education continues?
We're talking inappropriate comic books.
You're into comic books, aren't you?
That's comic book shit.
Like in the comic books.
Bloody just Jeff Smith, Ben.
Just Jeff Smith. Just Jeff, Michael.
Just Jeff, as they say. Benjamin, this is Collecting Issues, the monthly comic book club. So I suppose the first thing we should point out is there'll be spoilers. There'll be spoilers ahead.
There's loads of them. There's loads of them. So go and read the comic before you listen.
Go and read the comic, hop up on the Discord, talk to the other people about the comic, and then write your feedback, and then listen to this. Look, there's the comic. You can just go and get it. Not sponsored, but you can just go and get it. Who's this by, Ben? Is it by Image Comics or is it by Cartoon Comic Book people?
This is by Scholastic, Michael. Well, this particular edition is by Scholastic. But, Michael, this is a little bit different from what we normally cover on Collecting Issues. This is an indie title in the truest sense of the word, and we'll get into it on the podcast. We will.
Benjamin, I said to myself when we were reading this, first of all, I said, it's bloody March. Is this the March episode or the April episode?
This is the March episode, Michael.
I said to myself, this is bloody March, time to get boned. That's what I said, first of all.
Yes, very phrasing, Michael.
Very droll, thank you.
Very.
And then I said to myself, hold on a second, has that son of a bitch Ben Colopy made me read a children's comic book?
Well, Michael, it says one thing, but it definitely isn't, because when you read this, Michael, yeah, it feels like a kid's book for a lot of it, but then sometimes something happens and you go, ooh, that's not for kids.
There's a little bit of sexiness even.
Thorn really challenges that kid's rating as a
Doesn't
character.
She?
Yeah.
So, and there's lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff that might be because it's from the early 90s, or it might be because it's slightly adult. Like, for example, there's a lot of characters smoking. Just casually smoking.
Love them.
And they're not baddies.
Nope.
And they're not edgy. It's just people casually smoking, which you would never see in a comic anymore. It would only be with a point.
We've gotten rid of it. Michael.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, so it's not for kids or it is for kids. Ben, what's the origin of this? Tell us, quick. What even is this?
What sets this a little bit apart from...
What is it? Sorry, it's my first podcast.
It is.
A bit overeager.
It is. He is one of the several thousand clones that I freshly birthed for each episode of the show. It's his first time. And
I'm the only one who doesn't look like Robert Pattinson.
He's very eager to go. Very good. You're literally Mickey 17,000. Very good. I suppose, Michael, what's more interesting than volume 1 of this comic, and we are going to get into it, is the publishing history behind Bone. The struggle of one man and his lovely wife to get a dream comic brought to the shelves. And in Bone is a testament to the determination one needs to publish a comic without big-time publishing backing.
Go on.
To give you the elevator pitch on what Bone is, Michael, imagine if the Looney Tunes somehow burst forward in a Space Jam-esque escape from the confines of their celluloid universe.
Okay.
And found themselves thrust, Michael,
yes,
into Isengard mid-awful evil revolution.
I didn't really get that vibe. Where are you getting that vibe? What are you talking about?
I'll get into it now, Michael. This is.
No, that was a question for question's sake, Ben.
This is.
I'm not actually trying to undermine you.
This is a dark fantasy.
I don't know why you're being so defensive.
Get the fuck out of here! Shut up. Jesus, I'll put you right back in the vat.
Oh no!
But come here to me.
What?
This is a wacky, zany Saturday morning comic strip that has found itself in a dark fantasy epic.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, I don't think I agree on the Looney Tunes thing, because I don't think of the Looney Tunes as comics. But it's very, especially at the start, you open this in the first 10 pages or so, it's like a Disney comic.
Yeah.
It's like a harmless Disney, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck comic book about weird looking Disney. Now, this might be partially because I think both of us have read the modern colorized versions.
Yes.
And it really helps reinforce that Disney vibe.
Yes.
And I most certainly didn't ever think of this as like a Disney-esque thing, seeing it tangentially growing up with comics in the 90s. But the panel layout, the simple lines, the kind of expressive cartoon, it's very cartoony. This is like, it's like a 1950s comic. Or it's like what people who aren't into comics probably think comics are.
Yes.
This doesn't look anything like your superhero American comics.
Absolutely.
I suppose the first thing I thought of seeing it was your bande dessinée, which I assume we're going to be getting into later.
Michael, don't you know it? Don't you know it, old boy? Come here to me. This is the culmination of a lifetime's of work. And that wasn't hyperbole when I said it a little bit earlier. Jeff Smith fell in love with comics at the age of 5 when he and his father used to read Peanuts together in the newspaper. Peanuts, the comic strip, featuring Snoopy, Charlie Brown, Woodstock, the whole gang. That kind of...
Sally.
Yeah, Sally, bloody Pigsty. You know, they're all there. They're all there. Pigpen.
The little fellow with the blanket. Weenus.
Linus.
His name is.
Linus.
Weenus, yeah.
Yeah. That early influence is remarkably evident in the comic design of Fone Bone. Fone Bone being the main character, or the main protagonist of the piece. Fone Bone is the most generic little Saturday morning cartoon strip fella that you've ever met. A la Calvin and Hobbes, a la Garfield, a la Peanuts, as I said. So that was fine. That was his early influence. And he actually created Fone Bone as a direct result of that when he was a boy. He has been drawing this character from when he was 5 years old.
Oh.
He created his own comic strip character from that point on. Now, that started to shift for him, Michael, when he got into his teens and he started to read things like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, and most importantly, probably, Michael, for the bande dessinée influence that you just mentioned, is he started to read Heavy Metal, the famous magazine, French science fiction comic anthology series, I think is what you would class it as. And Heavy Metal, or to give it its French title, Metal Hurlant.
As I knew you would, Benjamin.
Oh,
I knew you would.
I have a copy of the reissue here somewhere. I'll find it and I'll put it on camera in a minute. They've only started to reissue some of the old issues, Michael, so you yourself can go and flick through Metal Hurlant when you feel like it. But he found that, and Michael, I think that is the great pivot point for the Bone idea, in that this becomes a mash of dark fantasy tropes combined with the zaniness or the loony aspect of comic strips from the newspaper comic strips.
To kind of refocus a little bit on what we've read, the journey to that is quite gradual in the sense of it happens over, like, I imagine, just from what I know of Bone, I don't know that much other than it was big. It was a big name when I was growing up in comics, but not something that ever fell into my sphere of interest. So I have never read a single page of. I didn't even know what Bone was, Ben. When we were picking this out, we had quite a lengthy conversation between the two of us, going, "What is it? How is it addressed? Do we address it as an entire collected thing? Does it come in issues? Or was it like one of those webcomic things where it got all compiled together? Or what is it?" But no, it was 50-ish single issues of normal comic book length. But because it's in the kind of, let's say, more Disney-style comic books rather than modern superhero comic books, you've got between, say, 9 and 12 panels on a page. And pretty much every panel has dialogue. So
a lot of dialogue.
Although this was a lot of dialogue, right? So although this was 6 issues, and we often cover 6 issues, and although it's a cartoony 6 issues, there's a good amount of reading in this. There's more reading in this than many adult comics, where they might spend 2 or 3 pages, and I'm going to put some air quotes here, silently setting up a mood, setting up a theme with landscapes or when we looked at 100 Bullets, and there's an almost wordless panel of the aftermath of a hit on a drug den.
Yeah.
And that's a 2-page spread, a highly detailed 2-page spread. But this has none of those conventions of modern American comics. This is, I think there are probably a couple of what we would call in the modern age splash pages.
Yeah.
But at least in these early goings, it's very much what my dad would think of as a comic.
Yeah.
Break the page into 9 panels, fill each of the panels with some sort of progression of the storytelling, and put a dialogue bubble and a character in each panel. It's I think the best way to express it is it looks exactly like what non-comic readers think comics look like.
And I think that's fair. And I think it's remarkably telling of Jeff Smith's influences that is how a non-comic book person would feel when they looked at it at a glance. They're like, yep, that's a comic. That right there is exactly what I expected from a comic. And you said, Michael, it's 50-ish pages. It's a 1,300-page epic, Michael. 9 volumes.
50-ish issues.
Yeah, 50-ish issues. So it's a 1,300-page epic. And without getting into too many spoilers, Michael, because we can't really, because we only ever deal with whatever volume we're reading at a time.
The issues in question, yeah.
There is what I can only describe as a tonal cataclysm about halfway through the run. And if you were to design a spectrum, Michael, on the one end of the spectrum in the early volumes of the Bone saga, you would say that the newspaper comic strip influence is I would say 80% of the tone, with the dark fantasy comprising maybe 20% of the tone.
If even, Ben.
If even. I think I'm being very generous there. It's probably more 90-10. To the point that even the fantasy elements, and I should reiterate, dark fantasy elements, and I'll explain that a little bit later on in this. Even the dark fantasy elements are comedic. When we initially meet the rat creatures, as they call them, they're 2 bozos. They're 2 dum-dums. It is Wile E. Coyote.
Stupid rat creatures.
It is the big monster in the Looney Tunes cartoons when Bugs Bunny goes to the castle. It's a big, dumb as a rock thing, and the main character can get out of it by confusing them.
Distracting them. Running away. Or,
distracting them.
Yeah, doing a fart or whatever. Yeah.
And as that series progresses, that balance of wacky to fantasy shifts completely in the opposite direction. And we begin to experience political factions and rebellions and lots of other things. But we can't talk about that, Michael, because we're only on volume 1 of Bone.
We haven't got that. I don't even know what you're talking about, because I haven't read any of that.
Yeah, of course he hasn't.
I just read a weird Donald Duck, bloody Duckburg-esque story about three very unpleasant yolks escaping from a town.
3 bones. Michael.
3 bones. So, Ben, are they bones? They are bones, right?
That's what we're led to believe. Femurs, Michael. Femurs, bones.
They're just femur bones, yeah.
And it's why one of the bones is much taller than the other. So there's the bizarre Smiley Bone, who's a much longer bone, but arguably because he's actually a bone. He's a longer bone in the human body.
That's an interesting take.
But it's not as interesting to us, Michael, really, in terms of whether or not they're actually bones. All that matters is they are 3 creatures, and when we meet them, they're on the run because of Phoncible P Bone. I don't even know how to say it.
Fhoncible, I think.
Fhoncible, that's it. Fhoncible P Bone, Michael. Fhoncible P Bone is an oligarch. And a bit of a flim-flam man, if you like.
Yeah, he's a bit of a Donald Trump.
And he's made his money the way every billionaire makes his money, dishonestly. That's how he's done it.
Dishonestly, yeah. No such thing as a good billionaire, Ben.
No such thing. And he's got his cronies, and his cronies are Smiley Bone and Phony Bone. Phony Bone and Smiley Bone.
Are they? No, Fone Bone.
Fone Bone, sorry. Fone Bone and Smile Bone are his cousins. And he has constantly wrapped them up in his schemes. And they've kind of gone along with him, either in the case of Smiley Bone, unwittingly, because he's the goofy character, I suppose, if you like.
He's a dumbass. Yeah.
He's directly related to a famous Saturday morning comic strip called Pogo, I don't know if you've ever read Pogo. It's
I've
okay if
never
you
read or
haven't.
heard of it, Ben. Oh, is it? Thanks.
Thanks
Thanks for your blessing. Thanks for your blessing.
What
there.
did I say? What did I say?
You said it's okay if I haven't.
It's okay if you
thank
haven't. It's grand if you haven't.
Thank you. You're so gracious, Ben.
I'm a very kind man.
Yeah,
Pogo was a Pogo was a strange little comic strip by an American called Walt Kelly, Michael, and it was about a little woodland creature that moved about the world. The possums that we meet in this are very closely modeled on the Walt Kelly art style. The possums and the hedgehogs and things that we meet in this mystical wood, very Pogo. And Smiley Bone is that kind of happy-go-lucky, dopey character that would have been very common in those strips. Fone Bone is a standard protagonist. We understand a lot of Fone Bone's...
That's enough. It should stay that. Standard protagonist.
His influence is very much Moby Dick. He is Ishmael, the character of Ishmael in Moby Dick. He's the narrator. He's the protagonist. If not quite the hero yet, he's the reluctant man of action within the world.
He's just the fella who things happen to.
Yeah, he's the fella who exactly. He's the fella who things happen to, and that's absolutely accurate. And then on the other side there is Fhoncible P Bone. And,
he's an arsehole, Ben.
Oh, he's an
He's
absolute
like if Scrooge
dickbag.
McDuck had no redeeming qualities.
Spot on, Michael. He is Scrooge McDuck with no redeeming qualities. And he comes from the Harvey Comics era. He's almost a Harvey Comics creature. Do you know Harvey Comics, Michael?
Is it okay if I don't?
It's okay if you don't. It's no problem at all, Michael.
Well, then pretend I don't for the listeners.
I'll allow it. If you've ever come across Richie Rich, not the Macaulay Culkin 90s film, but the strange little comics of the little rich boy who could, that was the title character of the Harvey Comics. He was a huge presence. Also, Hot Stuff, Michael. Don't know if you've ever read Hot Stuff about the little devil character.
Is it okay if I haven't?
It's okay if you haven't. And also,
I haven't then, let's say that.
And also, Michael, the one that everyone will probably know, Casper, the Friendly Ghost, was published under Harvey Comics.
Yeah. It looks a little bit like these fellas.
Exactly. And I suppose the core DNA of the Bone characters is almost Casper-esque. Casper and Spooky would have been two of the big ones then. But those comics were published many, many years ago, Michael, but they formed the influence of that. And once upon a time, you could write a children's comic about an irredeemable rich twatbag. And it was grand.
Yeah, he's such a swatbag. He's the fucking worst. Every time he shows up, he's just entitled. He's a dick.
Yeah.
This guy's a dick.
He's the worst. He's
the worst character I've ever seen.
He's the exact kind of lad that your mate brings to the pub and he goes, "Oh no, you sound really," and you two sips of your pint in, you're like, "This guy's a fucking dick."
Fucking dick. What a dick.
What a
he's
dick.
the worst, Benjamin. Everyone hates him, and correctly so. It's funny that his outfit, if you read the synopsis, I think you would think Smiley Bone is him with his business hat and his cigars.
Yeah.
But no, he's the goofy character.
Yeah.
And then, Phony Bone. Yeah, Phony Bone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's anything to the yellow star on the black t-shirt, but that's the only thing that distinguishes him from Fone Bone. They look identical otherwise.
Yeah. In this, it is just a distinguisher, at least in volume 1. And we know that the antagonists of the comic are looking for the creature with the star on its chin.
Right, but again, I'm sorry, we're jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
That's part of the slide toward it being, this isn't a funny little cartoon comic. This is actually a story.
Very much so. It is those kind of Harvey Comics era joy romps until it's not. And suddenly you're thrust into this strange world. The rat creatures are kind of fascinating to me, Michael, because in the first few issues, the rat creatures are the only danger that we encounter in the comic, because not only are these little bone fellas silly and kind of naive to a fault, they're also quite indestructible.
Yeah, they go off a cliff and just kind of bounce and they're fine.
Fone Bone plummets quite a length, Michael, and is grand. Fone Bone goes into the forest and can exist in freezing cold temperatures, can continue on. He gets tired, but it doesn't seem to faze him too much. But then, Michael, we meet those silly creatures, the two rat beasts that we're initially introduced to, and we go, "Oh, they're so silly. Look at them, the big dum-dums." And then,
big dum-dums. In
the last 2 issues, it gets real dark, because 2 rat bastards is a bit of a joke. A horde of rat bastards. Not great.
So The really interesting. First of all, Ben, are we doing favorite panels later? We are. We're doing
We are.
standout
Oh,
panels
yeah.
later because
Oh,
I have some stuff. I have some stuff I want to look at about that transition from cartoon comedy jape into fantasy story, and I'm not sure I buy. Maybe I don't know if this is even true, but I'm not sure I buy the idea that this was always intended to be a fantasy epic that
Okay.
we were kind of gently guided into. It
Okay.
feels a little bit like and I think this maybe is also a purposeful parallel. It feels a little bit like The Hobbit into The Lord of the Rings, where The Hobbit was a kid's story and it's a fun, happy-go-lucky, okay, people die, but it's a kid's adventure story, and then there are tonal differences that have to be smoothed out to make it work with Lord of the Rings. And this has that feeling too of it's three bros off on a silly adventure with cartoon physics, cartoon worlds, cartoon rules, and then it gradually, but not that gradually, I suppose. It happens over the space of 3 issues, which in modern comics would be fairly instantaneous. But again, because they're so panel dense, it does feel like a short novel rather than a very long comic. But that transition is interesting. So I suppose what I mean is one of my favorite panels, and we'll come back to it from an artistic point of view later, is the transition to winter.
Yeah.
How winter, and then it just goes flump, and the snow lands on him. And that's a great little comedy gag, but also a way of saying this comic is going to be playing fast and loose with the progress of time.
Yeah.
Because over the course of, like, exactly, oh, it's great. And okay, it's a bit of a splash panel as well, the next page. Or is that next page maybe an issue transition? So it plays fast and loose with time. Winter lasts an issue, basically. But it plays fast and loose within itself with time, because basically that lands on him. He has a little adventure where we follow him and he meets some possums, and then they imply that he's been there for months. And then it's already the start of spring. And, it's not an internally logical progress of time here.
Nope.
It feels like a cartoon. It feels like and anyway, winter happened and now here we are. But he's been in bloody that forest months, I guess.
But interestingly, Fhoncible P Bone has not been in winter. So this is where I got
just
confused.
Wander,
He's been
Barrel
wandering
Town.
in a mire. And we see it. He comes in issue 3, I think, when you just hear he constantly going grump, 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 grump. That's his soundtrack for it. And he's just clomping through mud. And he meets Ted, the little leaf bug that we meet in issue 1. Yeah, we meet Ted the leaf bug, and Ted the leaf bug meets him and goes, "Oh yeah, Bone's been here all winter." But there's no mention of that experience having been the case for Fhoncible P Bone. And so it's very interesting. And it is quite subjective because, I suppose because of his outsider status, he has wandered into this fantasy setting, but he's also been privy to an aspect of the fantasy setting that most people don't believe in, which is the dragon, the Great Red Dragon. And the Great Red Dragon is one of my favorite characters of this, Michael. I assume he is directly inspired by the likes of Ben Grimm from the Fantastic Four. He has the same characteristics. He is a grumpy, sullen powerhouse that smokes, that only gets involved when he really, really has to. And he has a kind of Jack Kirby-esque energy to him in the same way that Ben Grimm does. I found him quite an interesting character. But most people in the fantasy setting don't believe in him, including the denizens of the wood, who are like, "Oh yeah, okay, the dragon. Fone Bone.
He has he's a very cartoon dragon as well. He's the very kind of dog-like Pete's dragon sort of dragon. Touches of Puff the Magic Dragon about him as well. Like, he's very much a cartoon world. But then I think the biggest bombshell that happens in this entire comic is when he meets a hot girl.
Bizarre,
because it's so strange. Because up to that point, and Benjamin, bear in mind, I have no pre-knowledge about this comic whatsoever. So he comes through a clearing and he sees a hot girl having a wash, and as far as we know, to this point, very strange. She's like very strange. Pants down and everything. And to this point, we've not seen any humans. We've only seen anthropomorphized animals and bones. And there suddenly being a human in this world is the most shocking thing that happens in the entire comic.
Absolutely.
And then the fact that he instantly falls in love with her and is a bit of a creep. And let's put it this way. Let's put it mildly, Ben. She's not presented terribly innocently either.
Yeah, she's not naive. She is very aware of
No,
the world.
no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean at all.
Oh, okay.
I don't mean she's not presented as innocent.
Oh, you mean there's an exploitative element to her rendering?
Yeah,
yeah,
for
absolutely.
sure.
Especially in the one that struck me the most was when they returned to the house in chapter 6.
Yeah,
and she's riding the dragon. There's a lot of a lot of exposed shoulder there, Michael.
Yes, there is.
You know?
There's an awful lot of cleavage for what I thought 15 minutes ago was a kids comic.
Yeah, so that probably brings us back to the kids comic element, and I think it's probably important that we talk about it. Jeff Smith had been trying to make this comic for years, and when I say years, Michael, I mean throughout the 80s, well into the 90s, only publishing officially when he was 31 years of age, right?
Oh.
In 1991. Okay? So this is a fascinating story, and normally on collecting issues, we don't really get that into publishing, but I think it's quite important to understand the success of this comic and the scale at which it operates. And part of this is taken from an excellent video by another YouTuber, Michael, whose name is Matt4Ts, or Matts on YouTube.
That's good. I like that.
He does comic history and comic context ones, and I think it would be remiss of me, Michael, not to give him a little nod, because this is how I found out a lot of this. He actually got to interview Jeff Smith, and he creates, I suppose you'd call them mini documentaries on the context and publication history of certain comic runs. Very enjoyable, very good, 10 out of 10. Go check him out. He's linked below in the description, and that video is linked below in the description, so you can go have a look at him if you want. But Jeff Smith had been trying to publish this for years and years and years and years. And originally, he had wanted to get it published as a standard newspaper comic strip. So the four panels that you see
very
in a
much
horizontal,
reads like that.
yeah, in a horizontal bar. And he was constantly coming up against an issue. And the issue was that every time he tried to do it, he would meet with one of the execs that ran the comic, and they would give him feedback on it based on it being a children's comic, and they wanted him to come up with a gimmick. So, for example, in one meeting, he met with the head of a syndication league for this kind of cartoon strip, and the guy said, "Why don't you make everything that the characters say come out in a thought bubble?" And he got very confused in this meeting. He said, "Why would I do that?" And the exec said to him, "Because that's what Garfield does, and I want a comic like Garfield." And this begins a trend in Jeff Smith's young life, which is, I will not compromise on my vision. I
thought the trend was going to be fuck Garfield.
Well, there's probably a little bit of that as well. But overall, Michael, the initial trend in this career is a complete dedication to his vision and a refusal to compromise it to get it published, which is interesting and shapes. So he went on through and couldn't find the hook for the comic, or couldn't find a way to get it onto. He was rejected by every single comic paper strip. And then one day he was in a local comic book shop and he picked up the most unlikely of influences in 1984, Michael, and that was The Dark Knight Returns by Frank Miller.
Oh, it was either going to be that or Alan Moore's Watchmen, wasn't it?
Those are your choices. 1984, those are the choices. So what's happening there, Michael, is he went into this, and this was his kind of his own watershed moment on his perception of what a comic could be. Now, he had read superhero comics, but as we've covered many times on this podcast, The Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, and the early 80s is a huge moment for comics, where we move away from the Silver Age and the kind of golden age of comics and the infallible hero, and heroes are definitely good, to, It's actually very complicated when you have beings with godlike powers just wandering around in an everyday setting. Oh,
And Benjamin, as we covered off air, sometimes comics are stupid.
sometimes comics are stupid.
It's neither here nor there, though. Sorry, go on.
So he then went and had a chat with the lads in the comic shop, and they introduced him to the world of Cerberus, which is a bande dessinée adjacent kind of comic, another indie-owned thing, and Love and Rockets.
Probably something we should cover at some stage, Ben.
We probably will.
It fits
Michael.
into this kind of oeuvre of things which are huge and influential, but I've somehow avoided reading.
Yeah, absolutely. So this awakened a new thing in Jeff Smith, and he got a new idea using all those influences that I spoke about earlier, metal hurlant or heavy metal, depending on whichever way you prefer to say it, the Saturday morning cartoon strips, and it awakened a new thing in him. At this point, he had been working as an animator. Okay. And he had set up an animation company, and he had stake in the animation company. But this was the direction that he wanted to move in. And he went back to his wife, Vijaya Iyer, and his wife Vijaya had been Silicon Valley exec at the time. And she said, right, I will give you a year. You quit your job, sell your shares, I can support us for the year, really go after this, see what you can do, and in a year we'll review, and if it's not going anywhere, if it doesn't have legs, we'll scrap it, and you can go back to animation, and we'll figure out a new thing. So he got a year. Right, and he constantly cites his wife as the reason that his comic is a success at all, because she gave him the opportunity to go away and really pursue this. Now you have to remember at the time as well, the idea of the indie comic was moving towards the likes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original production, stuff like that. But anyway, he got his year to work on this. And initially, it wasn't going great. He began to self-publish, and he went down the self-publishing route. Mm-hmm. He didn't go near Marvel. He didn't go near DC. He did it himself, and he did the entire production himself, and his wife supported him throughout this. And it was going fine. He was doing small indie numbers, okay-ish. It was more of a zine than a comic at the time, right?
All right.
And it was in the original full black and white. So just pen and ink. Pen and ink. Old school comic book making. That's what was happening. And then a very strange thing happened, Michael, in the network of TV shows and strange public access TV that existed in America. There was a man who ran a comic book show, and that comic book show was a simple public access TV interview thing where he would sit down with big comic creators of the time and have fun little interviews with them. It was essentially a comic review show, not unlike collecting issues. But
the equivalent of this.
Yeah.
The equivalent of this in the 90s. That's hilarious.
But pre-podcasting. And what happened was a very fluke thing happened, Michael, and none other than Neil Gaiman was interviewed. Boo. Okay. No.
Of all people.
Yeah, of all people. But at that time, a titan of comic books in 1991.
Still is,
right?
I suppose. He
Still
was
is.
just taking a short break from harassing young ones.
He was, to write comics. Some people get their wives to support them. Other people, cheat on their wives.
I think his wife did support him, Ben.
Oh, yeah. I think that's okay. Anyway,
let's not get into that.
That's another episode of Comics Are Shit. The new episode format coming from Collecting Issues. But what happened was Neil Gaiman had been handed 5 issues of Bone to read, and he was stuck in an airport and he read it, and on this public access cable TV show he gave it a shout out, and he said, this is a great comic, it's really interesting, it's really different, I've never read anything like it. And from there, Michael, there was an absolute boom of
really?
Yeah.
This is Neil Gaiman's fault. I did not know that.
Well, not his fault, but certainly, and Jeff Smith cites it directly as what led to the interest in Bone. Now, it is very important to note, and the reason that we're on this bizarre tangent into publishing history,
where are we on this tangent?
Never intended this to be a kid's comic. It was pitched at adult comic readers, a la The Dark Knight Returns, a la Watchmen, a la Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, when it started. Right?
Really?
Not intended for children. Okay? Now, where it gets really interesting is that the 90s is the the gold rush era of first issue collectors and rare issue collectors and
real stupid stuff.
comic scalping. Essentially, it's that era. It's all speculative. Oh my god, I got issue 1 of yada yada yada, and today
Benjamin,
yes,
I have issue 1 of Ultimate Spider-Man. I think it's worth toilet paper now, but for a brief time in like the early 2000s, it was my retirement fund.
it was worth a couple of shekels.
Yeah.
Michael, I'll tell you that much. So this was the era of that. And then Jeff Smith, because of the demand of this comic, his wife, Vijaya, quit her job and became the managing business end of Bone as a comic.
The managing business end of Bone. That's going in the thumbnail.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a huge moment, right? They were doing exceptionally well. And then they made another interesting decision in order to keep up with demand, because what he was doing was he would get an order in for a set amount of issues, right? And that set amount of issues would be, issue 1 and 2, issue 5 and 6, and it was taking up a lot of time packaging those individual issues up to send off based on demand. So what they did was they started to do collected issues, or what we would call
collecting issues.
They started collecting issues, or what we would call the graphic novel format. Now,
Are you about to tell me Bone invented the graphic novel format, Ben?
No, that's not what I'm about to tell you.
I swear to
But what
God.
I'm about to tell you, Michael, is that Bone popularized the graphic novel format from the early 90s onwards. Now,
Here, have a skeptical eyebrow.
there was a huge pushback when they began this process because they were selling like gangbusters across America at the time, but they essentially went against the speculators market, the gold rush single issue market, and they began to sell them as collected issues, which essentially took the wind out of some of that sale. Now, it doesn't matter because what was happening in that speculators market is that it was headed for a crash anyway.
Yeah, fuck 'em.
That entire market, Michael, was built on hopes and dreams.
Yeah, fuck 'em. Fuck 'em, man.
And what would come is the massive crash of that market. And that happened in the mid-90s. The comic industry was driven by speculators hoarding number 1 issues. And Smith decided to make his 1 to 6 first graphic novel thing. And what happened was Wizard Magazine, which we've spoken about a bunch in the past, Wizard Magazine, which was a speculator's wet dream and used to value comics and show you charts and explain what was hot and what wasn't.
Benjamin, we should get some old back issues of Wizard and just do like a podcast a month where we go through a Wizard issue.
I think we should.
That would be
that's a
gold mine
great
of
idea.
90s horse shit.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
I'll get on YouTube. I'll get on eBay and see if I can get some. Anyway, sorry.
So at the time, Bone number 1 was valued at $300 per issue, as in if you had a first issue of Bone, it was $300. Wizard, in response to this affront of collected issues, dropped the value of that from $300 to $10 and published it in an issue. Okay, and this started a little spat between Jeff Smith and Wizard Comics.
Great! Come on, Jeff.
Go on, Jeff. Stick it to them, Jeff.
Come on, Jeff.
Right? And what happened was Jeff Smith issued a statement and said, "Catch up, man. This is where we're going from now on." And Wizard was like,
Yeah.
that Jeff Smith and his radical ideas.
And his makey-uppy name.
That's what happened. And that's kind of a huge moment. But anyway, the market crashed, right? Regardless. Comic books as a market plummeted. A ton of indie titles had to pack it in because they couldn't sell them the same way they used to. And most importantly, a ton of independent comic book shops folded as well.
Oh, no. Oh, that's an unfortunate side effect.
They couldn't manage to stay afloat because the market had crashed completely. And that had a huge impact on Bone as well, because single issues, regardless of his feelings on them, were still the way that the Bone company made a lot of money. Okay? Now, do we want to keep going with publishing? You okay? You still with me?
Yeah, I'll give you another 3.5 minutes. Then I want
3.5 minutes. Okay, I'll sprint through. What saves Bone and why we're reading this as a children's book from Scholastic is...
Yes.
Coming into the early 2000s, Scholastic is the American publisher of Harry Potter. and they are fresh off the heels.
Harry Potter's involved in this now.
No,
you're bringing in all
I
the
have to
people who
explain.
are no longer
There's
non persona grata.
there is a mountain of money for them, and they are looking for reinvestment, right? And one of the things that Bone has become very popular with is that because of its cartoon style, and as you said, the perception of it as a classic comic, librarians across North America were stocking Bone, and it was remarkably popular with children from libraries.
Because it looks like a kid's book.
Scholastic's editor-in-chief at the time was looking to get into the comic book industry because they were originally made for kids in his perception, and they wanted a title that they could work with. Bone was on its last legs because libraries don't make you much money when they're constantly in circulation, but they were very beloved.
Only buying one, yeah.
So Scholastic, because it's an educational children's book company, essentially, did a lot of focus grouping with librarians, and the name Bone kept coming up again and again and again. Librarians were citing it as one of their most popular comics, right? So Scholastic gets in touch with Jeff Smith, whose company is on its last legs because of the 90s comic crash, and says, we would love to run your comic, but it has to be for kids. Now, Bone was always a clean comic, and what I mean by a clean comic is risque Thorn exploitation aside, no cursing, no dirty language, no super adult situations, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, no particularly gruesome violence or anything like that.
Well, later, but not in the initial run. But Jeff Smith and Vijay Iyer went into a meeting with them, and originally when they went in, they had a stack of these on the table of the original graphic novels, and there was a bunch of post-it notes, and they met with the editor, and the editor said, we would love to run it, but we need a few changes. And every post-it note represented a change. And Jeff Smith, true to his principles from the beginning of his comic career, said, I will not compromise the comic.
Go on, Jeff!
And the editor-in-chief...
Go on, fucking Jeff!
The editor-in-chief of Scholastic went, fuck it. Let's sign the papers. And that is
Yeah, go on, Jeff.
That is how Scholastic got their hands on Bone and is the primary distributor of the comic to this day. And why For Kids is theoretically in the thing, but it's not actually. It was very popular with
It's
kids.
not like it's... Yeah, it's not like it's not safe for kids. Like,
Oh, no, it is safe
totally
for kids.
Fine.
Yeah. It is
Totally
safe for
fine.
kids.
Any
Absolutely.
young adult. It's just, especially speaking as a teenage boy, until you're 12 or 13, you're not going to catch a lot of what's going on between Bone and Thorn.
No, definitely not.
But it is there.
Definitely not. But from 2006 onwards, Michael, it sees a steady increase in sales to the point of view that in 2006 it was 100,000 copies of the graphic novel sold. In 2008, 2 years later, it was 266,000 copies of the graphic novel sold. And in 2009, it was 356,000 copies of the graphic novel sold. It's a lot, Michael, and constantly increasing, right? And to this day, Michael, it makes up a huge chunk of comic book sales. It consistently beats any Marvel or DC graphic novel on the shelf year by year.
Was it really?
Oh, it's fucking insane.
Really?
It's insane. This comic does gangbusters, Michael.
That's wild, because it's about a little bone fella.
Yeah.
He's in a forest. And,
Absolutely.
He shouldn't be. Ben.
Yeah.
Speaking of the transition to dark fantasy, they introduced some sort of hooded dark lord in this, and he's creepy as all get out.
He is. So, 6 chapters, Michael. Looney Tunes world, Saturday morning cartoon graphics, up until about chapter 4. And then...
King Doc? Is that King Doc?
King Doc is chapter 4, yeah. King Doc is chapter 4, and we suddenly realise that Tweedledum and Tweedledee, the rat beasts, are actually part of a horde. And that there are other creatures within that horde, and it's run by King Doc. And King Doc... King Doc is the alpha rat beast, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
He's the Uruk-hai leader to Sauron.
Yeah.
It's that kind of vibe. And I think it's such a sinister turn there, Michael, when we get introduced to King Doc, because it's much bigger. But the art style also moves from a Calvin and Hobbes-esque simplified tone. And from the second King Doc enters onto the screen, the rendering style of the ink changes significantly. You can see it almost directly, Michael, in terms of the level of detail and the level of ink that is poured into the character. Even between Rat Beast Dummy number 1 and Rat Beast Dummy number 2, this is King Doc. He is done in the heavy render style. And from there, Michael, we see something that we haven't seen depicted very often, which is nighttime. And one of my favourite sequences of panels in this is page 89, if you're reading volume 1 of chapter 4, is where all the rat beasts gather. And we understand the scale of this horde within the world.
Straight out, and this predates the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yes.
Straight out of the Uruk-hai gathering at Helm's Deep. Straight out of it.
And then we meet this creepy
the torches,
bastard.
the flames in the night. Look at this arsehole wandering on his robes with his little whispery breath coming out from under his hood.
And from there, Michael, what we see is the complication of this world, because the Looney Tunes characters that we've met up until that point are suddenly given a backstory and a foundation. It's almost like we are finally seeing them through the reader's eye as opposed to through Fone Bone's eyes. Fone Bone sees all these people as lovely and helpful and friendly. Grandma, we know, Grandma Ben, who is the grandmother of Thorn, is super strong, and she races cows, and that's the joke of it, you know. And she plays with a classic subversion of the grandmother trope, which is actually she's more of a Popeye than a standard grandma. Arms. And I think she's designed a little bit like that as well, because she has the underbite that Popeye has, and she has the squinty eyes that Popeye has as well. She's actually a tank, and we find out that she fought in a war. Now, the war is not directly referenced until that point. Until the rat beasts move on the house, there is no mention of the war. There is no war in Passing Say. And that's that's the thing.
I get that reference.
That's a thing.
Yeah, off the Lake Lao guy with you, Ben.
Yeah, exactly. And what happens there is there's no mention of it until then, and then suddenly the rat beasts are actually very familiar to everybody. Thorn hints at it in earlier issues when she meets Fone Bone for the first time, where he's like, "Oh, I've met rat beasts," and she's like, "Oh, rat beasts. Well, we should get out of here."
Oh, have you now?
We should get out of here, because she knows they'll fucking eat you. And they're not good, right? And we know that the red dragon is a protector of some sorts, but we don't understand the scale of the protection. And suddenly, there's a pact referenced. And the sinister, spooky, ugly, bugly, scythe-carrying guy with the wobbly voice goes, I don't really want to piss off the great red dragon. That's a problem for me. To the point that he is willing to eliminate that entire group of people just to keep it a secret, because he doesn't want the red dragon sniffing around. Now, we only get the faintest little taste of this, Michael, as we go through the issues. We don't get to see the full scale of what's happening here. I will be buying the full edition, Michael, and more importantly, I'll be buying it in black and white, because I've done a comparison between a couple of panels. Black and white might be very superior. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, you think it's better? Do you think it might be better? Ben. Yeah, it's really wild what a swing this takes. It is, again, it's like The Hobbit to Lord of the Rings, or even like the Hobbits are out of the Shire now.
Yeah.
So they're in a different world. But rather than there being in a different world, the perspective entirely changes. It feels like it's gone from their world, which is a cartoon world of hijinks and japes and everything, and now they're in this world. There's an art style change, there's a tonal change, everyone is more complex. Everyone now has a backstory, which I don't know if they had backstories, because this very much starts in media res with three weird cartoon characters falling off a cliff and going on a little jaunt. And it goes from that to, here are the complex character interactions that have led to this situation. Yep. It's a real sudden change. It's really strange. Do we meet any more bones? There are only 3 bones.
There are only
in
3
this.
bones.
I have a feeling we're only ever going to meet 3 bones.
I think the 3 bones have just become lost off the Primrose Path, because nobody knows what Boneville is. They keep talking about it, and they're like, Boneville? What the fuck is that?
Yeah. And Boneville seemes to have TVs and floats.
Boneville is America. In the 1950s,
I guess, or 60s. Yeah.
But Boneville is Harvey Comics. It is the world portrayed by... No, now, I don't know this for a fact, but from what
No.
we've gathered from this, Michael, Boneville is a Harvey Comics world. Put it that way, right? Richie Rich is there. He's got a lot of money, but there's an ever increasing level of absurdity that comes with that, and I quite like it. I quite like that P Bone, or what is his name? Fhoncible P Bone.
Yeah.
Fhoncible P Bone is a bastard, right? He's
an arsehole.
He's not, and I don't even mean that in a hyperbolic way where we're like, oh, he's such a dick. He's a scam
The worst.
artist. He's a charlatan,
Yeah.
and he doesn't care who he hurts. We find out a bunch of nuclear reactor scams, poisoning water supplies, ruining the environment. He's not
Fucking
good.
worst. Oh, he's the worst.
And towards the end of this, moving into issue 6, Fone Bone begins to explain the great prune scandal where he fed everyone poisoned prunes, essentially. And they all shit
everyone
themselves,
shit.
is what we're led to believe.
Yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
he's chased out of town. He's not a good man. He never makes the right decision. The only one good action that we see Fhoncible P Bone take is when ugly buggly creepy guy pokes his head in the window of the inn and says, I'm gonna kill your cousin, and he loses his shit at him. He goes, don't you touch a fucking hair on my cousin's head. I'll get you. I won't kill you. That's the only good quality we see. The rest of the time he's a
Ben,
fucking chancer.
Does the guy get mixed up? Because they're hunting the guy with the star on his chest, but are they actually after Fone Bone? I'm a bit confused. What's that about?
So this is the confusion. We don't know. Now, I can't figure this out. We know that the ugly buggly man that's what we're going to call him. He has a name, but we haven't read that issue yet, Michael, so I
haven't read it. I don't
can't
know
give
what
it
it
to
is.
you. He's an ugly buggly man, right?
Yeah.
The ugly buggly man is looking for the man with the star on his chest, but he will happily eliminate Fone Bone if it means that Fhoncible P Bone will do what he says. So it's a threat to get him to do what he says, as opposed to something that he's going to do.
I thought it might have been some sort of like, again, Lord of the Rings thing, like when Sauron looks into the Palantir and he sees Pippin instead of Frodo, and he's chasing the wrong hobbit. I thought it might have been a wrong hobbit type situation.
I don't know if it's a case of wrong jumper situation. So what I find interesting is that the mark on the chest is based on a garment that you could wear, and Fhoncible P Bone
Anyone could wear that.
is a very demanding bone who would probably steal the clothes off your back, which he does later in this. He steals his bag and his shoes and his cloak, and he runs off. So I think they've got the wrong bone.
They've got the wrong hobbit, I see.
Is what I think. And that's a genuine guess on my part. I haven't read further than issue 1. I will, but I haven't for the purpose of this episode. Because here at Collecting Issues, we don't want to do that. We want to focus on the text in front of us.
We have to read this text now.
And that's what happens. Towards the end of chapter 6, the gang is reunited. And all the bones are together again. And that's kind of it. And the lurking ugly buggly man says, all right, I'll leave you be for now, but I'm coming. In a very kind of...
gadget.
Yeah, exactly. Dr. Claw. I was just about to say, it's Dr. Claw incarnate. It's you know, it's a whole thing. But it's such an interesting comic. And I think the sinister tones... I'm going to be reading on from this. I can't wait to read more of Bone. It's got me, Michael. They've hooked me.
Are we doing it for collecting issues, Ben, or are you just going to go wild and just go read a comic book
I
yourself?
might just go wild and read a comic book myself, Michael.
You son of a bitch.
You lunatic. I mean, there would be an epic undertaking, Michael.
Madman.
There would be an epic undertaking. 1,300 pages and 9 volumes, Michael. We barely put out 9 episodes a year, Michael. It's ridiculous.
Year, fucking hell. The year of Bone.
The year
Chance
of
to be a
Bone.
fine thing, says you.
Chance to be a fine thing. But come here to me. I like this. Artistically, Michael, I think this is about as good as it gets. For one man to have done all this, Michael, I think is spectacular. From a comic book storytelling point of view, I very rarely see pacing this good.
Yes.
This is a man who has an intrinsic understanding of how to stretch or squeeze time or add tension or pace to a comic book panel. I think it's humorous, genuinely humorous, in ways that I don't get to see very often. The visual gag of Ted's big brother is one of my favorites.
So funny.
So
funny. When he turns sideways and you see how skinny he is.
Yeah.
Fucking great.
And it happens again and again, Michael, where it caught me off guard with panels. My favorite 2 bits of comic book storytelling is this jump between the two. Stupid. They'd be stupid to come down here. They'd be stupid rat creatures. And then they have to fall. I think his comedic timing, Michael, is spectacular. I really laughed out loud several times. I love this bit where the dragon is in the well and just won't come up to give him a break.
Yeah.
And it just undermines him at every turn. I think this was greatly done. And I thought I was pretty much going to be in for an Asterix and Obelix style
me too.
romp. And then, Michael, came what is my favorite 2 pages, I think, from the comic, which is this 2. One is the Horde.
Ugh.
And one is the backstory of Thorn. And we realize that Thorn's parents are not around because they were probably devoured by these fuckers. Right?
These fellas. Yeah, they're no use, those fellas.
Interesting panel work where, you know, you have a black border interacting with standard gutters, causing a foreshortening effect in different ways. And the entire chase sequence between Thorn and Fone Bone and the rat creatures is almost silent. There's the occasional kind of run, but this sequence of chase is phenomenal. The pacing is great. It's really well done. Jeff Smith seems to have a unique understanding of pacing, probably from his time as an animator, I would imagine.
Probably.
I'd say he kind of gathered a lot of that then, but I think it comes across really well. I really enjoyed this. I thought the humor was very funny. I think the storytelling is very interesting. I think it's an interesting premise. I think it's a fun kind of way to read a comic, and I want to move towards that big tonal shift. I think there's a reason that this comic is so popular with young and old alike. I think it's something very different. I think it's the first truly American bande dessinée, which is a bit of an oxymoron in itself, but it is a European comic done by an American.
The cheek of them. How very dare.
How very dare. And done well, which is even more insulting.
And more of a how very dare. And it's like 5% Randy, which, you know, that's about the right amount for you.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with 5%.
It's about 5% Randy. Keep it on the lower side. Everything's fine.
If everybody keeps
but that's what you eat then.
No, well, what do you think? No,
5%.
tell me what you enjoyed. I want to know what you enjoyed.
I did. I've been doing it the whole time.
What was your favourite panel, Michael?
Great.
What was your favourite panel?
I love when the snow falls on him.
Flumph, Michael. Flumph.
The flump when the snow falls on him. It's fucking great. I think that's amazing. I love when he comes out of the clearing and there's a human girl there. So
fucking
utterly
weird.
shocking. One of the most utterly shocking moments. It's like seeing an alien. It's so unexpected. There's humans in this world? What the hell?
There's some great, I guess, clash of tone sequences. I love when Fhoncible P first goes into the tavern and like this character straight out of Tolkien, this character straight out of Tolkien, this character straight out of Tolkien, and there's this little man. And
little bony fella. Benjamin, I know for a fact, if I had read this when I was a child, the scene where the apparition of the shrouded figure approaches Phone Bone through the open window would have given me nightmares for years. I'd still be having nightmares about it now if I'd read this as a child.
Yeah.
One of the most sinister bloody panels of a comic I've ever seen.
Just really
Great
unnerving. Fantastic stuff. But listen, Michael.
What?
Ultimately,
what is it?
We only do this for one group of people, and that's the listeners.
The listeners. They're a bunch of good eggs. One or two might turn out to be bad, like J.K. Rowling or Neil Gaiman. But
yeah, but then we'll just deny all
we
knowledge.
can't be blamed for that.
Yeah, then
we can't be blamed for that.
We didn't know. How could we have known?
We didn't know.
How could we have known? But come here to me. Folks, what did you think of this comic? Did you give it a read? Are you going to give it a read, having listened to this episode? I hope you did, because as we said before, spoilers.
Big ones.
Yeah.
Major ones.
But listen. If you did enjoy it and you want to get more in touch with us or give us your thoughts and opinions or give us recommendations to read on collecting issues, the monthly comic book club, why don't you hop on down to the link in the description that leads you to our Discord, where you can hop up there and have a chat with us. You can follow our bloody Instagram. You can follow our TikTok, where we put snippets. We're much more bearable in short form. It's great, right? Go down there and follow all our socials. If you enjoyed this episode, or you know someone who might, first of all, give us a review and a follow wherever you're listening.
Yeah, go on.
Give us a star rating on Spotify. Give us a proper review on Apple Podcasts. Share it with your pals. Chuck it up on your social media. Tag us. We're small. Yeah. We'll talk to you. We'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll do
absolutely.
It'll happen. The next couple of
Not
months.
physically small.
No. Mixed quite big. Mixed quite large. I'm on the smaller side of male. I'm only 5'8".
Yeah. I mean, I'm about 92 kilos. So, I mean,
he's nice.
I don't want to throw it out there that I'm small. That's all I'm saying.
You're not small. That's what I'm saying.
Thanks.
I'm saying I'm on the smaller side of male. Yeah.
No, but the podcast would be.
The podcast
small.
is an enterprise. It's quite small.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Enterprise-wise.
But not me personally.
No, you're quite large. Quite buff.
Medium.
Quite buff.
Yeah.
He's stocky.
Medium.
He's well built. Well built is our Michael.
Don't know about stocky now.
All right. Well built. Well built. Jesus Christ.
Should we wrap this up then?
Probably. Yeah, listen, come here to me. There's loads of stuff coming, including next month when we take a look at Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1. We're back to superheroes.
Oh!
Michael, Ultimate
Ben,
Spider-Man.
I'm not taking a look at Volume 1, because I'm just going to actually read the single issues, because I have them all here, look.
Look at that. A little stack of singles.
Oh, that's the wrong one, and it's
wrong
upside down. But you get the point.
Yeah.
Hold on.
We're taking a look at Jonathan Hickman's triumphant return to superheroes.
I've got all these singles, Ben.
You've got all those singles, Michael. We might read more than 1 to 6 then if you've got a whole bunch of them, because I've ordered the first 2 volumes. I enjoyed Volume 1 so much, I'll be reading Volume 2.
Bloody Benjamin. Lonely singles in your area.
Lonely singles in your area, waiting for you to read them.
That's what we should have called this podcast.
The click rate would be through the roof. So would the complaints from perverts.
Ben, don't read this though. This is stupid.
Oh,
don't read that.
So fucking stupid.
So fucking
Comics
are stupid.
But folks, there's loads of cool stuff coming up on Collecting Issues. We're going to be taking a look at Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow soon. We're going to be taking a look at Assorted Crisis Events from Denise Camp. We're going to be taking a look at The Weatherman, which is a cool little sci-fi ugly buggly. And then we're going to be taking a look at some 90s madness with the likes of Battle Chasers. Joe Madureira's comic.
Battle Chasers. Joe Madureira's comic, Ben.
Yeah.
I think it's Madureira.
Well, we'll learn before we do the episode.
Yeah, we'll get it right before we do the episode.
But folks, that's it from
comics, I tell you.
us. Thank you so much for listening to us once again. Have a lovely time wherever you are, and we'll be back very soon. Bye-bye.
See you next one. Bye. What is the next one? I wasn't listening to that. I was
Ultimate
riffing.
Spider-Man, you
Ultimate
toolbox.
Spider-Man.
Christ.